Kay from the J and K Show. Welcome. We've got another guest that I've been looking forward to bringing on the show, so I'm absolutely delighted to introduce to you all Marian Richardson. What's good, Marian?
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored. How
Yeah, no,
are you
absolutely. An
doing?
absolute powerhouse when it comes to Black conservatism. I'm going to stumble through that throughout the entire thing. I don't know why that is. But we're really delighted that you're here and really just want to touch on some topics. You've been trending a bit and certainly going viral with some of the content that you've posted and some of the appearances that you've made. And so I think it's awesome. And so really looking forward to unpacking some of this and getting your perspective on any number of topics. But before we go into that, in case folks don't know, which is hard to believe, why don't you take a moment out and just tell the folks who you are?
Oh my goodness. What an introduction. My gosh. Like I feel like I've made it. Like that was fantastic. So my name is Mary Richardson. My socials are hashtag Richardson or hashtag Marion, the word hashtag spelled out Marion. Um, and I the way I'm introducing myself these days is that I am a Christian conservative content creator. But I think what is, just kind of setting me apart is that I am a self proclaimed pro Black conservative. So I try to speak about conservative issues with the hope that my fellow Black Americans, especially, will just start to open their minds, right? And start to just question these not just stigmas, but these ideals that have been kind of ingrained in us over the generations. And hopefully, impart some wisdom and understanding and just be a bit of a window into another way of thinking.
Yeah. Now, I think that's a great way of how you framed it. And so when you talk about being a pro-Black uh, conservative Republican, but that wasn't always the case with you. I've heard you
Oh,
talk about this kind of journey and the genesis of, kind of leaning more right. But at one point, you were a Democrat. What
yeah.
took place? What was the flashpoint to where you transitioned and made that change in your political affiliation?
Yeah, my goodness. What's funny is I these days I'm asking myself if I was ever truly a Democrat or if I was just voting how everyone else voted around me and just following the overall norm of my culture and society, family, etc. So around 2020 was the first kind of aha moment, if you will, where the vaccine came out and Trump dropped the vaccine but did not mandate it. Then Biden comes into office and he mandates the vaccine, and he then starts saying that we're in a war against the unvaccinated and really vilifying anybody that was not interested in taking it. Now, me, I'm a Black woman. And I'm like, I'm at the time 30 years old. I'm like, I'm a very healthy person. I've done the research on vaccines because I have a daughter. So I looked into those vaccines for children before I decided, to give her certain ones. And I'm just listening to the president, to Fauci, all of these other supposed medical professionals making flat out lies about this vaccine and what it does and its effectiveness. And I, at the same time, watching my friends, family, colleagues start to not just blame me, but really attack me for not wanting to take it. And I'm just like, well, wait a minute. I thought we were, my body, my choice. I thought everything was, whatever you want to do is your prerogative. But you guys completely shifted on me and made me the bad guy for not wanting to put an experimental drug into my body that the government created. Since when do we trust the government? As the Black community, why do we trust the government so much? So that was my first really big aha moment. And I started speaking out against the vaccine and watching my content be um, shadow banned, right? Like I'm going from, a couple hundred likes on a post to like 6 likes, 12 views. And I'm like, they're definitely hiding my content about this vaccine. So that started it. At the same time, or about a year later, I started to really go on a spiritual journey, trying to understand, God, get to know him. I came to understand that Jesus Christ is the truth, the life, and the way. So I started reading the Bible. As I'm reading the Bible, there's so much, excuse me, there's so much in the Democratic ideology and what the Democrat Party promotes that just goes directly against the word of God. And I started to question that even more, right? And then the big change for me was when I started just thinking about my daughter and what I wanted her to emulate, the type of people I wanted her to look up to, and the policies that the Democrat Party was pushing at the time. We're talking about the transgenderism, we're talking about abortion, we're talking about being sexually liberated and things of this nature. We have Kamala Harris bringing Megan Thee Stallion to twerk on stage at the DNC, and she's got an abortion bus parked outside of the DNC. And I'm like, I don't want my daughter around any of this, like this is just not who I want her to try to be. So I started speaking a little bit more on my socials, just really honestly out of frustration, out of having no one around me to speak about this with, and getting kind of exhausted with the angry responses I would receive from, family and friends when I tried to reason with them or talk about the things that I was learning. So I just turned to social media and I was like, well, I'll just rant to my phone and put it out there because why not? And the election 2024, obviously I voted for Trump. I made it very clear I voted for Trump. When Trump won, I instantly lost about 200 to 250 followers of people that just were angry with, because I posted like, congratulations, Trump. And so many people dropped my page. And then I saw hundreds and hundreds of people start following me. And I realized, wow, like this is way bigger of a community than I thought it was. And there's so many people thirsty for someone to bring a voice to this, someone to be bold enough to talk about it. And ever since then, I've been just boldly speaking about what I believe and also intentionally correcting the misinformation being spread on the left, because that frustrates me a lot. Charlie Kirk was a big one. People came out very quickly when he passed away. Democrats came out just swinging and saying everything possible to attack him, and it's like, you didn't even know who he was. You didn't actually try to listen to any of his content, try to understand his mindset. So I felt compelled to teach people about him, and then that just spiraled into more and more just being, I guess, a trusted Black conservative voice.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, that kind of journey that you went through. You talk about you come out for Trump and then you lose a number of followers. Do you think that there's an assumption based on Black identity, for lack of a term, that people assume that you align with liberalism? And if so, where does that come from, and why so?
Absolutely. It's actually it's funny because I was just doing this research again, I was trying to piece it into like a 3-minute long video for Instagram, right? So the belief system, or just the stereotype that Black people vote Democrat, it's important that we acknowledge Black people are voting Democrat, but we have, by and large, conservative values, right? So what happened is 1850s, Lincoln wants to free the slaves. He creates the Republican Party because the Democrat Party does not want to end slavery. They actually want to increase slavery. The Republican Party is formed to fight against the spread of slavery. And ultimately, Lincoln abolishes slavery. So, of course, Black people off the rip, we weren't allowed to vote at that time, but we supported the Republican Party. They gave us our freedom. Many moons later, in the 30s, we see President Franklin D. Roosevelt give the New Deal, right? So that New Deal has a bunch of government subsidies inside of it, offering things like public housing, etc. At the time, it seemed like a very helpful thing for Black people, especially, the 30s were heading into the Great Depression. But now we know, looking back, that those were some of the most detrimental things to ever happen to the Black community, right? It really robbed us of our independence. And then in the 50s and 60s, we see civil rights and we see the Voting Rights Act, which are two, in my opinion, overall good things. The concept behind them were solid and positive for the Black community. But what people don't think about is the fact that the Democrat Party never came out and said we're changing our values, right? They never came out and say we're completely switching how we think and what we feel. What happened is the Democrat Party wants to lump itself with whatever voters they can get because they're aggressively losing during this season of, our history. They're losing people more and more. The Republican Party sprung up and so many people started to flock to it that the Democrat Party is like, well, what do? We have to keep up with voters. So they find whatever they can to string in a new base of underprivileged, underserved voters. At that season, it was the Black community. And if you watch since the 60s, we see the gay community, we see the Latino community, we see the trans community. Now it's the immigrant community, right? So they literally just go after whoever they can have feel like they care about them. But Black people in general are not very liberal. They're really not, right? Like we're not. It's not our thing. We've been told to be liberal. We've been told that we should care about LGBTQ rights because somehow that's the same as our civil rights, etc. So saying that to say the reason that we are assumed to be Democrats is because by and large we vote Democrat. But if you talk to a Black person directly and you speak to them one-on-one about the policies, about what they believe for themselves and their families, overall, like a overwhelming majority of Black Americans, especially Black people in the church, they have conservative values. They're just not, and I said this in a video recently. They're just, in my opinion, they're just not thinking about it. They haven't thought this through. And I realized that for myself. I was voting Democrat because everyone around me voted Democrat. And then one day I finally said, wait, what do these people actually even believe? What do I believe? What do I want to support? And I don't think that most of the Black community has actually done that deep thinking. They're just going with whatever they're used to going with.
So, and you mentioned faith. Does your faith tie into your kind of this political affiliation, right? As a conservative, as a Republican? Listen, you go to church, there are liberals and conservatives sitting in the pews, but what is it about your faith?
Spiritual convictions, right? It's funny because when you said that there's Christian liberals and Christian, Democrats in church, I did a debate, Christian conservatives versus Christian liberals, on the Dr. Daff show. And one of the main things that you'll realize when you speak to someone who believes that they are both a Christian and a liberal is that they are not a Christian. That's just the reality is they do not, if they even have read the Bible, the majority of them have not read the Bible yet. And if they have read the Bible, they have decided to dismiss a lot of what the Bible teaches, right? You create the Jesus that you want to believe in instead of believing in and submitting to the Jesus that is. So I find that when I look at what the Lord tells us and when I look at what he wants to see from people at large, right? When I look at him saying, certain things are an abomination to him, saying that we should not be murdering. And then we see the Democrat Party murdering babies at mass, right? When I see the audio. So we're supposed to protect the land that we've been given. Over and over throughout scripture, we're told to, fortify your borders and make sure that you are mindful about, it says love thy neighbor, but you're also supposed to be mindful about who your neighbor is, right? It's not love your neighbor and therefore go live amongst the pagans. God says, be ye set apart. So there are so many issues on the left that directly go against the word of God. Telling someone that they might be transgender, that entire concept is directly against the word of God. Suggesting that God is making mistakes when he creates humans, and he's making these mistakes at large, right? To the tune of hundreds, if not thousands of people every year is very unbiblical. And to support those things, I just honestly, I don't think that I have spoken to someone that has truly read the Bible and believes in it, believes in the Lord, submits themselves to the Lord, and still calls themselves a Democrat or a liberal. It's just not. The two things are oxymorons.
Yeah, you talk about the two things, Aaron, and you have a perspective that isn't shared by a lot of folks, in that you were on the left at one point in your life, and now on the right. So you've seen it from both sides. You've heard how one side talks about the other. Having personally experienced that, are there commonalities? Because we're in such a polarized state.
Yeah.
Um, it, but with your unique perspective, do you see where there is common ground and an opportunity for maybe the left and the right to kind of meet in the middle on certain things?
Oh man. Yeah, I think what I've noticed for sure, the left believes that they are not racist. They are completely convinced that the right is just full of all these racists. And I have never in my life been called more racial slurs than leaving the left to come to the right and having the left speak to me. Right? If you go through my comments on any one of my posts, you'll hear me being called a coon, called a bootlicker, called, a slave, all types of insanity. And I will say that there is definitely on both sides, there are people that just take things too far. And that is not necessarily an ideological component, right? It's really about maturity. I gotta say, I think the vast majority of people are very immature in general, on the left and on the right. The vast majority of people are very immature. I would say that the left, I think personally, has far more immature people because they just can't seem to find the ability to have intellectual conversations without getting upset, without getting riled up, without needing to scream and yell or even physically harm someone. Um, the right has the people that are claiming to be conservative, but in reality, they're more like misogynists or racists, actual genuine racists who really, believe that whatever white or only black people should exist, right? Um, what we need to come together, and this is why it's so sad that people like Charlie Kirk are, attacked so aggressively, because what needs to happen is just a reminder that it is okay to disagree, right? And it is actually to our benefit that we have conversations and we speak about whether or not your ideology makes sense versus mine. One huge thing for me is I am a scholar. I'm a biblical scholar. I sit down and I pour over the word all the time. And anything I believe, I have heavily researched it. So when I'm speaking to someone and I'm trying to have a intellectual conversation and find some middle ground, what I've found is that the people who are less educated in a topic end up getting more angry more quickly. Right. So instead of actually being able to talk about this, you want to be upset at me. So now you need to attack me directly. You need to call me a name. You need to, just tell me that I'm in a cult and dismiss my my views so that you can feel comfortable with the fact that you can't actually answer my questions, right? You can't actually give me a reason why you believe these things. You can't give me an example of when, you think someone said this or whatever it is. So I think the only way, truly, I think the only way for us to have a genuine, real common ground and meet in the middle is for people to actually get educated in this, right? Because we can't meet in the middle until you understand what both sides are talking about. Then you can even see the middle. But because there's one side that is just deeply convinced that their side is 100% right and doesn't even attempt to understand the other side, and that same problem happens on, the right and the left, it is very, I don't know that there will ever be a time where we can truly say that everyone just gets it.
Right. So it certainly sounds like this is more than just a practice for you. You're an advocate for this. Where do you go to? What's your fellowship like with other pro-black conservatives? Who's in your circle? Who do you bond with? Who do you share ideas with?
Oh man, that's a great question. It's something I'm very grateful to God that He has been giving me people for that, right? I've in the last few months I've really grown a friendship with multiple people. Right now, some of the people that I talk to the most is just to give like their social media names, like
Sure.
Savannah Craven. She's fantastic. I'm actually gonna go hang out with her later on today. Black Card Declined. Her name's Brianna. She's amazing, brilliant. Carmen Jace. These women, we all did. Naisha, we did a debate together and just like instantly, connected. And then I follow Jeffrey Mead, but we're not friends or anything. I'd love to meet him, but I just haven't met him yet. There's a good amount of people, honestly. It's been surprising and very affirming, right? To meet so many people that get it.
Right.
As far as the everyday, what I've been doing to just get a little more community in my actual city, there's, Facebook groups that are uh per city, etc. That there's Facebook group for anything, really. You can go on Facebook, like if you like, you know monkeys, you can go on a Facebook group and find a group that likes monkeys. But there is a plethora of groups on Facebook. So I'm part of multiple groups: Black conservative groups, Conservative of New York groups. I just went to a book, not really a book reading. It was more of a Q&A with the author of a book, Rob Henderson. Um, and that was really fantastic to just be in a room full of people. It was put on by the Manhattan Institute. So to be in a room full of people that are conservative minded and just being able to speak freely here in New York, especially, that is very rare. So that's kind of what I do. I have some core friends now that I've made that have, similar values. A few of them even live here in New York. I try to go to events that people have just to meet more people. And I will say it like this. That's one thing that I would love for the conservative base, especially Black conservatives, to be intentional about, is making more conservative friends and starting to build conservative groups, because we need to be these, the liberals are out there protesting every single day. They're on college campuses talking to kids all the time. They're, passing out abortion pamphlets and all of this. Like, we need to be more mobile and show that we make up a huge portion of this society, because the liberal base, especially here in a major city, they're convinced that they are the majority, and they're not. That's why they lost the last election.
Yeah, I will say that folks I know, when they talk about pro-black conservatives, they oftentimes they describe it, I guess, like they've seen a unicorn, right? But what you're saying is there's a bunch of you out there, a bunch of us out there, and so maybe we need to do more with waving the flag, if you will, blowing the horn, and kind of putting up that lighthouse so folks know, hey, we're over here. So totally understand that. Hey, also,
Wait, just to note on that, I was joking with my friend, but I think we should really do this. I think that the Black conservatives need to reclaim the cookout, right? Like, that should be our thing. Like, we should have a Black conservative cookout. I don't know where it would be, probably Texas or something, but I'm like, we can cook. Like, if there's anyone that can cook, there's gonna be a bunch of, like, trad wives and like southern Black men that want to go out and kill something and go cook it on the grill. Like, I think we should reclaim the cookout and stop letting these people tell us that we're not invited to the cookout. We don't need your cookout. We'll
listen,
do
I think
that.
that's a great idea. And let's be honest, okay? You put a cookout with black folks, you're going to get folks from both sides showing up, okay? I mean, a good cookout, we're going to all be
Come
there.
on. Hello. And
We're
I'm
not
very
hating
good at
on
spades.
barbecue on any side of the aisle. Hey,
And
listen,
then we have our cookout. Let's be honest. If the conservative group has a cookout, we have far less to worry about with people, showing up and doing ratchetness, because we don't do that. So I
this
think
is
we should.
true. This is true. I saw you on a video during a couch conversation, and you talked about feminism
Mhm.
and how it was essentially kind of an attack on family structure. Women attack is my word, not yours, not the word that you use. But you see, to really kind of frame it, like you were certainly pointing out to how this has kind of infiltrated and hurt the family dynamic. Can you touch on that just a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, feminism is very similar to any other Democrat push, which is that it sounds great, right? And even in the um at the start, it did do some valuable good. You know, I do believe that women should have the right to vote, even though, I mean, that's another topic because some women maybe shouldn't. I'll be honest. Be totally honest. I think there should be a barometer, like a test to allow you to vote, but that's another topic. Um, I think that women should be allowed to vote. I think that women should be able to, work at large, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with the feminist movement, and this is what people don't realize, people think that this is just an issue with like third wave, fourth wave feminism, where now we see women that just hate men and a bunch of lesbians that are like calling themselves feminists. But that's from the start. If you look back at the, founding of the feminist movement, a lot of those initial writings and the women that supported it, they really hated men, right? And this is where we get this very foolish notion that so many women were miserable and before feminism, right? If you hear a feminist say it, you'll be like, oh, well, we needed it because men were beating their wives so much. And that's why women needed to leave these relationships and be able to have a bank account. Because if she didn't, she had to stay with her abusive husband. I'm like, how many women were getting the crap beat out of them in the 40s and 50s? Like, are we going to pretend that that was just a norm? I don't think so, right? Like you guys are making something where there were definitely certain cases, but you're exploding it into this is just what society was. The reality is, if you look at old photos of married couples, we have so many photos of these women greeting their husbands coming back from war, right? Extremely happy to be around them. If you look at old videos taken from the 60s or 50s, people are like, yeah, I love my husband, I'm happy. Like we had happier marriages, we had happier people. And feminism told women, it went from being like, well, you deserve rights as well, to you are a man. Basically, you are on the same level as men. And i just don't I don't think that people step back and look at how absurd that is, right? Like there's no instance where men and women are completely equal. There just isn't. There's things that we can do that they can also do and vice versa, but we are not equal in that regard. And to want to be equal asks that the structure of the family be completely different, the structure of society be completely different. And it's not been to the betterment of women or men. If we look at the results, right? Women will think that, oh, I have a career, so I'm better than women in the 50s. But babe, you're on antidepressants, right? You're a wino. You've been self-medicating with wine every single night. You don't want to have children because you are afraid of that type of, commitment, but you're sleeping with different men every day, etc. Men are miserable, right? We see that men have way higher instances of mental health issues, of suicide. It broke the core relational, the way that we relate to each other, right? It removed a respect for men from women. It told women, you don't need that man because he's going to do anything that whatever he could do for you, you can do it for yourself. And it took away this natural reliance that we're supposed to have on each other. And it's
But
really
don't you,
sad, honestly.
right? But don't you think the feminists see that? So I guess the question in that is, if it is indeed as horrible as we all believe it is, and we all look at the same stats and we see less marriage, more divorce, these very touchy, heated discussions on reproductive rights, if it is this sense of chaos, then why does it feel like there's more of a groundswell as opposed to shifting back to what we would describe as more traditional relationships?
Well,
And
I think we actually are shifting back.
okay,
I think we really are. If you look at, I mean, there's literally now a trend of the trad wife, right? Like that's a thing that's exploding on Instagram of women being like, y'all can go and do that. I'm staying at home. I'm making sourdough bread. I have no shoes on. I'm pregnant. Like I'm very happy here. Me and my husband have a homestead and I raise our chickens, right? Like that's happening. And then at the same time, we're seeing men demand their right to be masculine again, right? And say, no, I am a man. I am allowed to be a man. I am not going to apologize for being a man. What's happening, I think, is that one, feminists in general are very loud. They're very loud, angry women. So they make a lot of noise, and it might seem like their cause is, getting so much attention or it has so much support because they're just louder. But they're not happier, and people see it. Right. And what happens is down the line, you see it, most feminists are going to be in their 20s, maybe early 30s. And down the line, as women get lonely, let's be honest, and realize that, oh, wait, everyone around me is getting married. All of these women around me are getting married. My friends can't come out with me anymore because they have 2 and 3 kids and they're, at home and happy with their husbands. Then they start to realize, oh, wait, maybe this whole feminism concept or me trying to be as valuable, whatever, we are equally valuable, but we have different roles. Saying that to say, I do think it actually is. We're seeing a huge resurgence of people wanting traditional values and leaning more towards that. And in fact, in the talk that I was just at with Rob Henderson, he was talking about how we were talking about, finding a spouse, how difficult that is for conservatives in general, right? Especially in liberal cities. And what he noted, which is very true, a lot of women, we went out, we got those nice degrees, maybe we have a master's degree, a PhD, etc. And a lot of us are settling down with blue collar, high achieving men. So police officers, firemen, etc., electricians, etc. And it's because there was this time where, for the last 10 years or so, it was every possible celebrity saying, oh, well, if he don't have enough money, he can't date me and da da da. And now you see women being like, well, wait a minute, if I don't need his money, then I just need him to be a man. And who's actually a man these days? A lot of it is the blue collar working men, because these men that are sitting at their computer all day have lost a lot of their masculinity because they just fallen into that feminism trap.
all right. Um, Great stuff. Last question for me, Arian. Um, if there are folks, in particular, say women like yourself, who are in the place that you were at one point, left-leaning Democrat, it's kind of looking over to the other side and seeing what's happening with this conservative movement, but they were born into, say, being a Democrat, their behavior, and they've adopted patterns of how they process and see the world because of maybe folks who are older than them. What would you say to someone I don't want to say convince them, but to maybe open their eyes to maybe giving an opportunity to that right lean, that conservatism?
Yeah. Well, I think my initial statement would just be, remember that you're allowed to think. You are allowed to think. You're allowed to use your mind and to make chop and screw it. But I would tell someone to just use their brain, right? Remember that it is to our benefit that we think things through. We're in a society, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, where the concept of thinking for yourself has been actually almost shunned, right? We had a moment where it was, well, just trust the science, trust the science. And I did a lot of researching the science and realized that you can't trust the science because the science was lying to us, right? And that's what really broke my broke the, veil over my eyes and removed that for me. So I would say remind yourself that you are allowed to think for yourself. And then when you start thinking for yourself, ask yourself what type of life you really want. Truly, what do you actually want? What's actually going to fulfill you? What's actually going to make you happy? And then also look at the long-term results of these things, right? I look at, with love and respect to anyone in my family, but I look at my aunts that never had children, never got married, versus my aunts that have been married, have children, in their 70s. And I'm like, I can see a very serious difference in the quality of life and the overall happiness at this point, in those decisions down the line. Look at these celebrities that tell you, oh, you don't need a man, da da da, and they're disrespectful to their husband. And then what was her name? I can't remember her name, but there was one of these very beautiful Black women celebrities who said, I should have settled down earlier because she's 50 and she's single now, right? So Vivica Fox, like being, realizing now, like, yeah, she kind of is past her prime and now she wants a man. It's like there's results out there. You can look at how things have ended up working out for people, and you can decide what you actually want for yourself. So that's what I would tell people. Just think again. Just remind yourself you're allowed to think.
I love that. I love that. The world needs more free thinkers, right? Truly,
Yes.
truly enjoy that. Marion, I can't thank you enough for popping in here on the J and K show and imparting some of that wisdom on us. Listen, you are always welcome back. Please put my number on speed dial. We look forward to talking with you again real soon in the future.
Thank you. I am super honored, very happy that we were able to actually get it done.
Indeed, yeah. That's a story. Maybe we'll put in the bonus footage or something.
It literally, it's like, how bad do you want to do this? How?
Good
But thank
deal.
you guys so much. I'm truly honored to just be included and invited to the show. So thank you.
Pleasure's ours. So thanks, folks. Make sure you tune in next time for the J and K show. Appreciate you. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching the J and K show.